the only way that you can have further participation is through structural inclusion. So it's not that we want to shift the balance in any way that is more ethnically representative than in any borough. However, there were boroughs like Brixton that had Lambeth that had high populations of African Caribbeans and Haringays, and there was no structural inclusion. There was no fair balance of resources being distributed. And we see that now. But this is all around organization and the lack thereof. So my thing is quite clear when anybody says to me, oh, you want special treatment? No, we don't. And we're not blaming anybody else either. We have to look in the mirror and take an honest look and blame ourselves at this stage for our role. And that role, to some degree, has been highly complacent. Well, now that we're organized and we have political parties, we have viable candidates, we have political PACs, and advocating, lobbying, and all of the rest of the organization that recognizes our grassroots organizations and fully brings them into the process as well. So there's a high degree of connectivity amongst people who've worked at the highest echelons of, you name the industries, could be banking, finance, education, and also in terms of civic leadership, in terms of local authorities. Well, now people are leaving on droves to serve specifically our ethnically specific beneficial programs. So we've heard your stance on young people and the elderly, but COVID has brought up a huge disparity in terms of health service for the African Caribbean community. We know that there was a myth that we are more susceptible to COVID-19 because we were heavily hit. But we know that that was an economic argument and the people felt compelled to be on the front lines because their jobs were at risk and people were threatened. So it was no surprise to us that we were more affected. However, when it comes to our needs and requirements in terms of health, they are quite specific. Diabetes is very heavy. Prostate cancer has been quite a big issue for a lot of our brothers, and also sickle cell. So tell us a little bit about your plans to create more access and greater awareness for the local community as well of health services.
Yes, well, you touched something that's dear to me too, sickle cell. If you go around the London boroughs right now, many of the hospitals do not have the equipment to be able to deal with sickle cell sufferers. There's a little thing they have at the nearest hospital to me, Middlesex Park or Middlesex Hospital. But what they have there is not sufficient with the amount of sickle cell sufferers that we have in this country. And so I believe that most of these organizations need to be funded so that they can have that outreach to the community. And also, I think we need to have an awareness drive to find those within our community that need those health services. So health services such as prostate cancer, which is predominantly a disease that afflicts Black men. And so having access to screening, having access to testing. I remember when I went to my doctor and I just said to him, I would like to get a test, just to see what my prostate is like. And I was 40 years old. He said, oh, no, don't worry about it now. Come back in 10 years' time when you're 50. And I was thinking to myself, how many other people are going to doctors and they're being shunned like that? Absolutely. And so I actually had to demand it and pressure him that I need to get that done because I want to know what's going on, because I've got family members, I've got friends, I've got uncles that have had it. And they said that if they'd just caught it a little bit earlier, it would have been better for them. And so we want to create more awareness for prostate cancer. We want to make sure there's access where people can go to their doctors and get seen and tested for prostate cancer. We want men not to be ashamed to having to go out to get that testing done. So we need to have that conversation and more engagement with our Black brothers about this too. And again, you have high blood pressure, which is another concern within the community. Where are the health centers where we can access, where these people can get tested? So one of the things I would be wanting to do is make sure that we can have that access. We can get our brothers and sisters out to these places that are on our doorsteps, basically, but a lot of people don't know where they are. And so fundamentally very important health. Another thing is the diabetes. And how do we set up a healthy living program for those that want to change that lifestyle and do a healthy living? Put in some exercise for those who may be suffering with overweight or obesity, and have access to the parks, to the leisure centres, things like this. So I would definitely champion this as a councillor within the Southbury ward.